What's going on YouTube? This is Rybo at the kitchen table today. Today bringing you another cut or carry knife review looking at the Spyderco Police 4 Lightweight. So this is a very interesting knife for a couple reasons. And one that I've had for a little while, have been carrying kind of on and off, and finally have the review. Now, being that I'm at the kitchen table and taking advantage of every opportunity that I get when kids are napping, I do not have calipers nor my scale right now, so I will not have the measurements. However, you can look those up fairly easily. This is a full lightweight Spyderco, so you can see you've got those kind of nested or integrated liners that are milled out, but this is a very lightweight Spyderco knife given the size. And I mean, I think you can tell this is a huge knife. So let me go ahead and do some size comparisons, couple standards. So PM2, which is itself a very large knife, you can see this absolutely dwarfs it. Likewise, the Spidey Chef, quite a bit bigger. And because we're talking about large knives, we would be not doing service if we did not have a cold steel. So this is the Code 4, which is one of my favorite knives, also a large knife, and you can see that the Police 4 just absolutely dwarfs every other large knife in my collection. So this is a very big knife. All right, so things that I like about this knife. So first of all, this is a lightweight Spyderco. This is an FRN lightweight, much like the Delica, much like the Endura, all of those kind of classic Spydercos with the FRN bidirectional texturing. This is really a scaled up Delica in a lot of ways. It's got the same spoon clip, same back lock, really the same tolerances from what I can tell, the same ease of opening and closing. And of course, I just close the blade on my finger and draw blood. That's excellent. That's amazing. Actually surprised that hasn't happened in the past. But the one difference with this, I guess there's a couple differences, but the one noticeable difference with this rather than like the Delica is that you have this nice forward finger choil. So in a lot of ways, kind of like the Para 3 Lightweight. It's a little ridiculous on a knife of this size that you would need a forward finger choil, but I actually really like it. It's very comfortable. It is a huge blade, and so it kind of lets you choke up on the blade quite a bit, which is really nice. And so I think that that's one improvement to the kind of classic bidirectional tech. I don't know if there's a name for those, but I think of like the Delica 4, the Para 3 Lightweight, I guess. The Dragonfly 2, like all of those Spydercos, I think that this is a design improvement on all of those, because you have a little bit of contouring here on the scale, plus that forward finger choil makes for just an incredibly ergonomic hand. I think maybe even a wider point right behind that first groove. All in all, incredibly ergonomic for such a large knife. And in my opinion, if the Delica were to have a 5th iteration, definitely something that we would want to see on that 5th iteration, because you really make use of this area here as I try to stop the bleeding, which is just amazing. Yeah, so that is definitely something that I really like about this knife. I mean, in a lot of ways, this knife is a little impractical for daily carry, but incredibly ergonomic and just exactly what you'd come to expect from classic kind of FRN Spyderco. And so that's a really awesome thing. Other things I like, so shockingly, I really like the spoon clip on this guy. Now I make I make it no secret that I am not a wire clip fan with Spyderco. I'm sorry, that I am a wire clip fan. I am not a spoon clip fan with Spyderco. I tend to really like the wire clips. I liked the spoon clips when they first came out, but honestly, I've just had too many bad experiences of them getting pulled out of my pocket or eventually bending. I've had a lot of experiences where over time the clip won't actually even make contact here anymore, which is obviously not ideal. So I think out of the box these are pretty good, but I just have a history of them not wearing super well. However, on this knife, given the size, I don't think a fold-over deep clip makes any sense. Deep carry clip makes any sense. You think about how much of that knife is going to be sticking out of your pocket and versus how much is in the pocket. This knife is freaking massive, so there's really no need to bury any more of this into the pocket than necessary. So I think the clip height here is absolutely fine. No issues there. I don't think you can really get away with sticking any more out of the pocket because it's just going to be a little bit odd and you might get some weird stares. So I like that, and I've found that the wire clip actually does hold this in the pocket fairly well. I think it's canted, and maybe not even canted, but I think it's bearing a lot of the knife up against the side of the pocket. It's kind of, we'll wait to see how well it wears. I mean, the issues with these clips are, the DLC coating or whatever this black coating is tends to chip away fairly quickly, and they tend to kind of bend. And so I have my concerns that that's probably what's going to happen with this, but I guess time will tell. Other things that I like, look, I am not a steel guy. Like, steel is just not really one of those things that's ever going to fascinate me. I really want a good steel that's easy to sharpen, that holds an edge for a while. Now, a lot of people really dislike Spyderco's VG10, and I understand that to some degree. From my perspective, the VG10 is a fine steel, maybe overpriced a little bit, as are a lot of Spyderco's offerings, but honestly, VG10 sharpens up really, really nicely for me. I do find myself having to sharpen VG10 quite a bit, so I can understand that the edge retention may not be all that spectacular, but honestly, it's a fine steel. I mean, this is a $100 knife, I believe. I'm not going to complain too much. Yes, I would prefer to have it in like CTS XHP, which is one of my favorite steels. I think that would have been awesome. But it's keeping in the same tradition as the Delica, the Endura, like that whole line. Yeah, maybe that's not great. Maybe they should do some improvements to the steel there, but it's not really something that I hate. And so I'm not really going to say it's a thing I like. I'm not really going to say it's a thing I dislike. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of there in the middle. I don't hate it, don't love it. It's fine. And honestly, I think we get a little bit, I don't know. I think people get on the soapbox a little too much about steel choices, and that kind of bugs me. Other things that I like, I think that the back lock is very easy to disengage, and I'm going to just hold the blade while I do that because you saw it just swing down on my finger. Let's check on the finger. Oh, we've stopped the bleeding. That's fantastic. But this is a good Spyderco back lock. There are some Spyderco back locks that can be a little bit hard to press. The Native 5 comes to mind, for example, where you have to really mash all the way down. This one, again, much like the Delica, Endura, etc., you just have to about halfway, even maybe less, and it releases the catch. This thing swings shut pretty easily, so that's a really good thing. All in all, very satisfying back lock to use. I think that they could have done the little dip here that they do. I think it's on the Delica. I should have probably brought a Delica for size comparison. But otherwise, it's totally fine. No issues there. All right, other things that I like. I guess I just like that this is a lightweight iteration on an existing knife that a lot of people like. The Police 4 is definitely a favorite and kind of surprising favorite for a lot of people given the size. But I see it. I mean, yes, it's called the Police 4. Yes, I guess it has a tactical kind of play on it. But this has honestly been an incredible knife for household chores, and particularly in the kitchen. I mean, if you look at the size of this thing, this is on par with your average kitchen knife, like one that you would be using to just cut a lemon or cut cheese, that kind of thing. This is an unbelievable slicer, just a really nice classic flat grind from Spyderco. And I have really, really enjoyed this in the kitchen. I mean, it's going to be big enough to where you can cut oranges and fruit that's a little bit bigger. It's going to be really, really slicey. It's going to take a razor sharp edge. This has been really nice. Plus the fact that it's VG10. You don't really have to worry about rusting, which is, I guess, an advantage of doing what I recommended with the XHP. So maybe that wouldn't be a good idea. And pretty much you can just wash this guy out, which I've done many times. Just, do your cutting, wash it out, let it dry, and you're good to go. That's a really cool thing. So yeah, maybe I lose my man card a little bit for taking the Police tactical knife and using it in the kitchen to cut up lemons and oranges, but That's just me. Other things that I like, that's probably about it. I mean, it's a good Spyderco knife, right? It's very ergonomic, got a lot of handle room there, really nice blade, classic flat grind from Spyderco. It's actually lightweight. Yeah, cuts well, carries fairly well for the size. What can I complain about? Things that I don't like about the knife, there's not really anything. I mean, really the only thing I don't like about the knife is I don't carry it a ton. It is fairly impractical for me to carry this. I mean, for as efficient as it is and lightweight as it is, that is still a really, really large knife in the pocket. When you look at, I'm not even gonna bring the code 4, I'm just gonna bring the Para 2, the PM2, my goodness. PM2 is a large knife in the pocket, and you can see that the Police 4 is huge in the pocket. So, I mean, it's great. I really like it. I think it's a fantastic knife, and I don't have any intent to sell it. I think it's going to be around for a while. But honestly, practically, I just usually find another knife in my pocket. There are probably applications and days where I'd want to carry it. But in general, it's a knife that I like to have in the case. I think it's a good one. It's always a joy to cut with and to hold. But practically speaking, I don't really find myself reaching for it a ton. So that leaves me with a difficult decision, cut or carry on this knife. I'm going to say carry, and really that's because I have. While I don't necessarily find myself reaching for it all the time, this is a knife that has now stayed in my collection for several months, and it's one of those knives that I think I would be tempted to sell because it's $100. I can clear that space to make room for something else, but honestly, it's kind of cool, and I kind of like it. It feels like a scaled up Delica to me. And the Delica will always be one of my favorite knives. So in that respect, I think it's pretty neat. It kind of makes me want to fill out the whole collection between Dragonfly 2 and Police 4 and kind of get every size of those FRN knives. I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, there's something about it that I just really, really like. Hope you have enjoyed this review, and I'll see you next time.